Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I had a wonderful chat earlier today with Brother Tavis Smiley. Brother West, Cornel West, was in transit and was unable to be on the program today, but he is the most consistent and thoughtful brother in the history of philosophy. And so I want to let Cornel West know that it was an honor for me to step in for him on the Tavis Smiley Show, knowing full well that he will return very soon. We have a hot series of discussions for the next 2 hours here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special contributor on Worldwide with P.L. De Silva. Dr. De Silva will be our very special guest in the first hour, and I'm particularly excited that Dr. De Silva is bringing onto our program Rear Admiral Hayes. Rear Admiral Hayes assumed the position as Director of Intelligence for the United States European Command, Germany, in January 2010. He has responsibility for all theater intelligence systems, plans, policy, and contingency intelligence activities of the United States forces in the European theater. A graduate of Indiana University, he initially worked in the private sector for 5 years before being commissioned in August 1982 as a naval intelligence officer. More on Rear Admiral Hayes's bio in a little bit, but I want to reflect on, just for a moment, in the absence of Brother West in the first hours of Tavis Smiley's show, a love supreme. That's really what we're talking about in light of all of the confusion that is taking place in our world, emanating from the highest office in the land. And in a real sense, it really doesn't matter what kind of government exists, although I'm the biggest fan of the American experiment and the idea of our evolving democracy. But the fact of the matter is, even monarchy, tyranny, if you will, which is a force within the idea of authoritarianism, if there is benevolent monarchy, if we had a monarch who was benevolent, whose spirit was like that of Jesus of Nazareth, would I care? Someone who looked out for all of the people, someone who healed the sick, counseled those who need counseling, provided health care for all of the people at every level of their existence, lovable, livable, and an equal high quality education, health care, believed in preserving God's environment, would I care if the only person in the whole government responsible for resources balancing the inequalities between the rich and the poor theologically came from the same cloth as Jesus of Nazareth, who believed in the worth of every single human being, who represented all people regardless of their race, sex, or class? Would I really care? The answer is no, if it were Jesus. But of course, men and all of their systems and all of their beliefs fall short of that fundamental idea that character matters in the highest level and offices of any nation, regardless as whether or not it is a monarchy, a aristocracy, an oligarchy, a democracy. We, the people, have an opportunity, and the burden falls on us in our system to elect people with character to the highest office in our land. And for that matter, the highest offices in our land, not just the presidency, but the governors, our state representatives. They are not state leaders, they are state representatives. Our congressmen are not congressional leaders, they are representatives. And in the final analysis, in America, the people govern. And that's ultimately what matters in the United States and in our democratic experiment. Dr. P.L. De Silva has an extraordinary history. P.L. De Silva, in the intelligence communities of our country, of our world, ensuring the security of the United States and the people of our country, and his concern for humanity around the world certainly reflects a man of extraordinary character. He is our very special host on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, P.L. De Silva will introduce our very special guest, Rear Admiral Hayes. We've got a lot to talk about.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Agnes was in deep trouble with the IRS.
I owed the IRS a lot of money. I did not know what I was going to do. I was scared.
Agnes caught a break and found out about Optima tax relief.
But when I called Optima Tax, they guaranteed me that they were going to help me out the best that they can. And they did.
Optima stopped the IRS.
No more telephone calls, no more letters. Optima Tax took care of everything. I can finally sleep at night. I was stress-free.
Agnes was finally free from her IRS nightmare.
It was like a burden was lifted off of me, and it was a great feeling.
Are you in deep trouble with the IRS? You might want to listen to Agnes.
I would refer Optima Tax Relief to anyone because they got me debt-free from owing the IRS any more money.
Call Optima right now for your free consultation. Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Experienced director P.L. Da Silva with a demonstrated history of working in think tanks, industry and academia, the United Nations, political and military affairs, and the private sector. Skilled in research, political risk analysis, geopolitical strategy, cultural diplomacy, humanitarian action, and global affairs involving war-affected, deeply divided societies, with a strong professional disposition, attitude, and scholastic achievement with a Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, focused on political science from the University of Amsterdam. PL, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you very much. Very good to see you, Jesse.
PL, if you don't mind, I'd like you to introduce our very special guest, Rear Admiral Hayes. And I want to be very careful here. Rear Admiral Hayes is a distinguished member, former of the United States Armed Services, a man of great distinction, well decorated, and well respected. During the course of this interview, Tavis has taught me over the course of my budding journalistic career, charitable listening. And I plan to do some of that with my injections about questions for answers that I do not have. But I'm also not crossing the line. The political lines recognized by the extraordinary service that Rear Admiral Hayes has provided to us as Americans in his role as one of our nation's top security advisors and analysts. He operates in a very, very special space to keep the American people safe. With that said, PL, please introduce our guest.
Yes, thank you very much. It is a great honor for me to introduce a very dear friend of mine, Rear Admiral Norman Robert Hayes. He's the first African-American admiral to come out of U.S. Naval Intelligence. He was a Pentagon briefer, and he was also at the White House. And he was the director of the National Security Agency's Operations Center at Fort Meade. And he was also director intelligence in Afghanistan. And he retired as director intelligence at European Command under the command of Admiral James Stavridis in 2013. Admiral Hayes has tremendous knowledge and depth about all things that are pertinent to this great country, and also with regard to, how we conduct ourselves as leaders. And he's in the process of writing a book on leadership, and I've been encouraging him to do that because there is a dearth of leadership in this country and worldwide. And it's lessons from people like Rear Admiral Norman Robert Hayes that we need to learn from. And we need to all work together and defend our Constitution. It's something that's of huge importance. Mm-hmm. And without much further ado, I'd like to introduce and ask Admiral Hayes to join us. And over to you, Jesse.
Rear Admiral, thank you very much for your service to our country. Thank you for your service for all of the security that you provide for us, whether we can see it or not see it. We know that it is there. For your fidelity to the Constitution, we're grateful that you're on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And as I shared at the very outset, I'm very, very careful with our interview, given the extraordinary depth of concern for the security of the American people in this hour politically that does matter to our thinking. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Admiral.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate having the opportunity to come on board here, discuss some of these incredible things that are happening in the United States now. I have had opportunity to talk with friends just generally about these kinds of things, and everyone has a bit of, I guess, fear in some ways, but also a high level of defiance, because they know what our country is about, the kinds of things that we have done in the past. Not all of them good by no measure, but we've always had a direction that we were going in, a direction that hopefully was going to continue to be able to build toward a better future and to be a world leader. That's not occurring now, and that makes people apprehensive. So it's good to have an opportunity to be able to put these things out in the open and have a bit of defiance.
Admiral, let me start with the obvious. As a former member of Congress for 17 years, I put my hand on the Bible. I swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States from enemies, foreign and domestic. That's the very public oath that I've taken, that you've taken, that PL on a number of occasions have taken. From your perspective, Admiral, what does that mean?
Oh, my goodness. Literally, having had a career in the United States Navy and United States military, when you take an oath, that oath is everything. And it's very important to be able to understand you don't take those oaths lightly. They are things in which other people's lives depend upon you. It is not about you. And you have to then become inculcated. You have to be guided by the oaths that you end up taking. It's like making a promise. And that promise is that I am going to do something. I'm going to act a certain way. And I am prepared to be able to give everything if asked. So those oaths are vital. It's like the character that you would end up wanting to have if you were a leader. I think you can sort of equate the two. When you are a leader and you are in a various situations which will occur in terms of being in that position, the things that you say to others, the actions that you take have to be in a way in which you are able to know and others know how those actions are going to affect them, and hopefully always affect them in a positive way. So it's vitally important. I can't put enough into trying to have people understand that you have to obey, all right? Get it? Obey the oaths that you have with the intelligence that you have and the smarts that you have gained through experience to be able to try to do the right thing.
PL, you've taken the same oath.
Yes, definitely. In dark times, in deeply divided contexts, and I think it's the crucible of experiential learning. And I would like Admiral Hayes to tell us about how he sees this great country, especially during this high-level week at the United Nations, where all the world's eyes are on us. And it's something that I'd like for him to talk about, the speech that was given by our president in comparison with the speech of the former army commander of the Indonesian army, who's now the president, and also King Abdullah of Jordan. And I'd like to have Admiral Hayes kind of unpack this for us, because I think it's important for your viewership and for the American people to understand what leadership truly is.
Admiral?
Yeah, there's one thing that I learned in my life is that you have to make a decision of who you are. What is your character? And those character traits that you build in your life, all right, are the ones that, and through the filter that you see the world, and it's the same filter as the world sees you. Those things mean everything. In the world that we have today, having had an opportunity to be able to hear some of the speakers at the UN, at the General Assembly in 2025, I found that there were many leaders that were there. And they really had a vision outward of not only their country and themselves personally, but about the whole world. And that is how big it is if you are the leader of a country in this world, that you can't just look at my country and me. You have to look at how then are we going to affect all of those peoples and other countries in the world, and to be able to build a vision which includes everyone. If you notice that in the things that they talked about, they weren't talking about their country, they were talking about everyone else. They were talking about being inclusive, not exclusive. And it's hard for some people to think beyond the borders of their own front yard. And that is problems that we have not only in the current president, but by many people in the country that we live in. And it's really important that we go forth and be able to change the way we are thinking, change the way we are acting, and to be able to build those character traits which are so vitally important. And it's easy. It is simple. It is not difficult for us to be able to do that. It is important that we do that. I've in my life tried to be able to put together a situation in which you can be able to have a way of building those traits easily. You don't have to go through some, hey, I have to read every book, but no, you do have to read books. You don't have to try to know everything, but you have to have knowledge and you have to have understanding. And I've broken it down into something simple that our current leadership does not understand at all. And it's unfortunate that they don't, but it's true that they have no idea of what it is to be a leader and to be able to act appropriately when you're there. So I'll quickly go through this. It's a simple, very simple thing in terms of the principles you need to have as a leader. And it's 3 T's and the word MELS, MELS. The 3 T's are tell the truth, always tell the truth, build trust through telling the truth, and create transparency in your relationships.
Truth, transparency, truth, trust, and transparency.
Yes, truth, trust, and transparency are the 3 T's. The other one is MELS, and it's always, without a doubt, be a person who is going to be moral, ethical, and obey the laws, legal. All right, those things are the standard. They are indelible. Right? And you build that upon a foundation of spirituality, a foundation of faith. Those things in your life, once you put them in your life, truth, trust, transparency, moral, ethical, legal standards at the highest level, and you build that on a foundation of faith, of spirituality, you have to put them inside yourself and they become indelible, right? You never, ever change that. That does not change. It is not something where it is gray one day and white the next. It is who you are, what you are, and how you act. Excuse me just for a moment. Can we take a quick break right now?
We can in about 2 minutes. I do understand that there may be something taking place, but you can mute your system for just 1 second. I do want to talk before we come to our official break, to say this, that truth, trust, and transparency is why Rear Admiral Norman Hayes was a Rear Admiral. That is a lifelong lesson. I'm assuming that it melds together, not as individual events that are separated or segregated in his mind, but it is the sum total of the way he's lived his life. And I'm assuming that's the sum total of the way General Russell Honore has also lived his life. I'm also assuming that it is the sum of the life of General Charles Q. Brown Jr., the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And so I hold in this moment, PL, Rear Admiral Hayes out as an example of, one, constitutional fidelity, of truth, of trust, of transparency, which is key not only to the way in which our body politic can rally around concepts that make sense, but it's also, PL, ways in which we can reform, transform, and look at our own individual lives and ask ourselves some very difficult questions. PL?
Yes, because without integrity, which is what it boils down to, there can be no leadership. And the world is in a very difficult place where we are now. And we need leaders who have the courage, who have the gumption, who have the foresight and the willingness to make change. You just look around at the tens of thousands of people who are getting slaughtered left, right, and center. If you look at Gaza, if you look at Ukraine, if you look at Sudan, I mean, it's incredible that we in the 21st century are not able to bring these things to a halt immediately.
PL, I've got to go to the break now. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is KBLA Talk 1580. We are honored to have a man of honor on our program today. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The biggest names, the best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is blaming radical left rhetoric for a deadly shooting at a Texas ICE facility. One person was killed and 2 others critically hurt before the gunman took his own life.
The radical left is causing the problem.
Trump also singled out Black Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, accusing Democrats of fueling hate and energizing the right. Former Vice President Kamala Harris stopped in New York on her 107 Days book tour, reflecting on her brief 2024 presidential campaign. Her remarks were interrupted by pro-Palestinian protesters. Harris says she understands the crisis in Gaza, calling it heartbreaking, but noted she is not in a position to act since she's no longer in office. And Sean Diddy Combs is asking for leniency ahead of his October 3rd sentencing in his sex trafficking case. His lawyers want no more than 14 months, which would mean release on time served. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Take a break from the mundane and escape to something a little more fabulous with the first ever Fabulous 5-day sale. From today through this Friday, September 26th, find deals at all your favorite Vegas hotels. Plan your fabulous escape and learn more at visitlasvegas.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The magic number for the Dodgers to clinch the NL West Division title is down to 1. The Dodgers hung on to beat Arizona 5-4 in 11 innings Wednesday night. Wednesday afternoon, San Diego lost to Milwaukee, putting the Dodgers in position to wrap up the title today in a day game at Arizona. A win for the Dodgers or a loss by San Diego gives the Dodgers their 12th NL West title in 13 years. First pitch today at 12:40. The LA Sparks are making plans to build a $150 million practice facility in El Segundo. It's the first time in the 28-year history of the WNBA franchise that the Sparks will have their own practice facility and headquarters. The building, which will take up 55,000 square feet, is scheduled to open in 2027. The Lakers also have their practice headquarters in El Segundo. Speaking of the Lakers, their first day of training camp is Monday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whoa, whoa.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
Dr. Renee here. Did you know this time of year is considered peak asthma season because we typically see a spike in asthma-related hospitalizations? If you have asthma and are having difficulty breathing despite medication, it's time to check in with your doctor so you can help avoid landing yourself in the hospital this season. To learn more about managing your asthma, visit www.luma-edu.com. That's LUMA-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at KBLA1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community focused. So just go to KBLA1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. We are here in Washington, D.C. at the Congressional Black Caucus in 2025. Our very special regular contributor on Worldwide is with Dr. P.L. De Silva, who's an experienced director with a demonstrated history of working in think tanks, industry, and academia, the United Nations, political and military affairs, and the private sector. Skilled in research, political risk analysis, geostrategy, cultural diplomacy, humanitarian action, and global affairs involving war-affected, deeply divided societies. PL, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you very much, Jesse.
PL, thank you also for inviting our very special guest, none other than Rear Admiral Hayes. Rear Admiral Hayes is a well-regarded and well-decorated man of honor who's been sharing with us some of the traits that he's learned in his decades of public service to the American people, to people around the world, to guaranteeing our personal and national security. And they include trust, truth, not necessarily in that order, and transparency. Truth, trust, and transparency. And just before the break, Rear Admiral Hayes, we were going to seek the definition of what you meant by it all melds together. Rear Admiral Hayes, thank you for your service to our country. Please continue.
Thank you again for having me on your show. This is a wonderful honor. And being able to explain to a wide audience why these particular traits are important, not just for me. You know, I had a reason where I built this up and had to be able to use them, and for many reasons that go behind that. But this is something that everyone can use in their everyday life. It is a way that you can act. It forms your thinking, and it is really important in how you are going to interact with others and how you're going to treat them. It's really a game changer if you can be able to get to this point, to be able to build enough confidence to act in this particular way. And I will tell you that people will flock to you, right? Because of the standards that you set that they cannot set themselves. They see in you what they wish they could see in themselves. And I don't care how important and powerful another person is, they will be afraid of you because of your commitment to those 7 simple words. It is so important. Leadership in this world is important. Leadership in this country is important. As far as I'm concerned, leadership is everything. We can hearken back to those individuals, those leaders in our past, who, when you looked at them, the hairs on your neck would stand up because they emitted something that you said, I want, because of who they are and what they represent. It is so important for us. Everyone has 2 things inside of them, right? Everyone has 2 things inside of them. The first thing is they want to be led. The second thing is they want to be a leader. That is a fact. You can find anything. It's in children. You don't even talk to them, and you see that that's the thing they want to do. I want to follow this person, and I want to be an opportunity to be a person that leads others. We do not work in this country at this particular point in time to be able to build those in individuals. We just don't do it. It's not something we have. It's part of our 250-year history of being an independent person and running out and doing things independently. I will tell you that nobody does anything independently unless they get on a horse and go out there where there are no people and they live their lives. Because other than that, they're going to interact with everyone else. And you have to know how to interact, and you have to know how to bring people together. I had to do that throughout my naval career. And I was at a handicap, to be honest with you, because there were a dearth of, one, really good leaders, period, who understood that. And two, I was Black. Let's just call it exactly what it is. I was a Black man in a white military. And so those things, in terms of how you acted and the things that you did, you became like a microbe on a microscope, on that little, plate that they have down there. And everybody was looking at you, and they weren't looking at you from far away. They were looking up at you as close as you could be. And once you determined that, once you became that person that they went, wow, that person isn't like me, they actually are better than me, then that's when everything changed, and I had a very unique career.
Admiral, let me ask this question, and then I'm going to ask PL De Silva, to give me some latitude in the final segment of our show after the break. But out of respect for the man of honor, I want to say this: truth, trust, transparency, all melding together in the form of some kind of faith value that emerges from that personal ethic that you've observed in other men and women of honor. In your leadership role, obviously in the Navy and other branches of the service, we have about a minute and a half before this question, but I know you can take an hour to answer that before we come forward. It seems to me that when you meet an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old or a 21-year-old or older who enters the service for the first time, you yourself, as their commanding officer, introduce them to a new value system that is a lifetime of service.
That's correct. You do. You have that responsibility. The uniqueness about military service, whether you like it or not, or you like military people or you don't, or you think that we shouldn't have armies or navies or Marine Corps or other things. The thing is that you have a moral responsibility to build others up. You have a moral responsibility to act in certain ways. And I know a lot of people who are in leadership positions that don't do that are in the military. But if you do it correctly, they will flock to you. They will literally flock to you. You underestimate the capacity and capability of people who are 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. They do it every day. That means people underestimate. And that is the problem that we end up having, is that it's like saying, well, you don't have enough experience to understand. Go get some more experience. That's not the truth. You have to challenge them, and you have to give them responsibility. And then you have to, as yourself, as the leader, be able to guide them. Last thing I'll say, here's a really important thing. If you really want to be a leader, you are going to give out more energy than you receive from the people around you. That is a prerequisite for you to be able to do. And people see it, and they will flock to be an opportunity to bathe in that energy that you are putting out and ready to give to them.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Thought-Provoking Thursdays on Worldwide with Professor P.L. De Silva. More when we come forward with a man of honor, Rear Admiral Norman Hayes, when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? You may be able to reduce your risk by managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure, being physically active, eating healthy, and exercising your mind. To learn more about AD, the importance of early diagnosis and intervention, and a potential treatment option, visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to the Junior Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is Thought-Provoking Thursdays, worldwide with Professor Pete L. Da Silva on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Dr. Da Silva, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you very much, Jesse.
And we are particularly blessed with a man of honor, Rear Admiral Norman Hayes, who has joined us in the previous hour and for this hour, discussing faith and character traits, truth, trust, transparency, and how they meld all together, not only as personal character traits, but as national character traits for observing our national leadership and our representatives. Admiral Hayes, thank you for being with us on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you.
Admiral, let me ask you this question, and then I really got to turn this over to PL because this is our final segment. I'm thinking in this moment that these character traits should have been taught at the earliest of possible ages before we reach the age of majority. For men and women like yourselves who are willing to put literally their lives, their mortal existence on the line for something they believe in. In this case, the Constitution, the nation itself, the security of the nation. These character traits are the same character traits that any man or any woman might place in play when it comes to defending their own families, which, whether you agree with that defense or not, it certainly earns our respect that they held their ground, that they held the line on what was fundamental core and character traits of who they are and who they were as human beings. In fact, our nation's national cemeteries are filled with men and women who've taken this fundamental point of view. Admiral?
Yes. That last point that you just made, the men and women that have actually given their lives, the highest sacrifice that you can have. They all had these traits, maybe using different words, maybe with a different inflection, to be able to make that sacrifice as they were in the pursuit of a career, in the pursuit of saving or hopefully saving their families or saving someone else's family because they knew the importance of being able to do that, to be someone that helps someone else. You have to have a ability to be able to understand your own mortality. You have to understand the mortality of others. And you have to say, it's important to me that you live. All right. That's difficult for people to do. That's an outgrowth of the 3 T's and MELS, MELS, because you then become a person who understands the need for humanity, the need for saving people, things that really make you angry because others do not understand it. You heard, I think, in almost every person that spoke at the UN, every leader, they talked about the moralless situation that we are in the world today. And he talked about it in various different ways. But we don't have the moral character, all right? We don't have now in this new generation an ability to be able to look back and say, wow, that was bad. And we don't want to do bad anymore. I'm going to say something that I think is very important, and I think PL heard me say this before. The countries in Europe that went through World War II, right? They went through World War II. The countries in Asia and that went through World War II, they went through World War II. The United States is on an island, and we go to do war. War doesn't come to our shores. And not being able to have that understanding, even though it may have been, it's decades ago, all right? We have a problem in terms of what we want to do and how we want to be able to do it. We're in a new world now. We've been able in this new world to destroy ourselves 1,000 times over easily, but we have had restraint. Smart restraint, because we knew that it wasn't going to be very one-sided if we didn't have restraint. We should build upon that. We need to build upon that restraint that we had. And the way you do it is to continue to build leaders. Leaders are built in the crucible of the execution of their lives, right? The fire that we go through can steel us, all right, protect us and help guide us in the future. And even though we've recently gone through some wars, the larger aspect is we haven't gone through the types of things that happened during World War II, where literally tens of millions of people died, right? We have little firefights, but when you are in that situation where you were in, you maybe had the responsibility of going out and killing people, total war. You never want to see total war, ever. And it's the change that we've had is that we don't have people who understand what total war is. They've never experienced it, and they have never even been in war to understand what it is.
Mm.
And those things are things that are important. They make decisions important. And it helps to save people, because the true peacemakers are those that have been in war, all right? Those that have been through that crucible, and they don't want to go through that crucible ever again, and they don't want others to go through that. I can line up for you easily of people that I know, hundreds of people, mostly intelligence officers, because they've actually studied war. And they have to, in terms of the execution of their job. And they realize how fruitless, how silly war is. War is driven by ego. It is not driven by sane people. All right. I will tell you that right now. Individuals who don't understand the import of their actions.
Admiral, I have to take this opportunity to thank you for being on our program. And I can't thank enough Dr. P.L. De Silva for bringing his very special friend, Rear Admiral Norman Hayes, to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I hope our listeners have listened very carefully, even to my tonality, of what it means to be in the presence of a man of honor. And this is a man of honor, someone that we respect, someone who sets the standard for our personal behavior. And that personal behavior collectively can become a new national behavior from someone who has lived this life. KBLA honors you, Rear Admiral Hayes, and so do the American people. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. PL. Thank you so much for Worldwide with PL De Silva on Thursdays, thought-provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More when we come forward with Johnny Mack and Worldwide.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is blaming radical left rhetoric for a deadly shooting at a Texas ICE facility. One person was killed and 2 others critically hurt before the gunman took his own life.
The radical left is causing the problem.
Trump also singled out Black Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, accusing Democrats of fueling hate and energizing the right. Former Vice President Kamala Harris stopped in New York on her 107 Days book tour, reflecting on her brief 2024 presidential campaign. Her remarks were interrupted by pro-Palestinian protesters. Harris says she understands the crisis in Gaza, calling it heartbreaking, but noted she is not in a position to act since she's no longer in office. And Sean Diddy Combs is asking for leniency ahead of his October 3rd sentencing in his sex trafficking case. His lawyers want no more than 14 months, which would mean release on time served. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Take a break from the mundane and escape to something a little more fabulous with the first ever fabulous 5-day sale. From today through this Friday, September 26th, find deals at all your favorite Vegas hotels. Plan your fabulous escape and learn more at visitlasvegas.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The magic number for the Dodgers to clinch the NL West Division title is down to 1. The Dodgers hung on to beat Arizona 5-4 in 11 innings Wednesday night. Wednesday afternoon, San Diego lost to Milwaukee, putting the Dodgers in position to wrap up the title today in a day game at Arizona. A win for the Dodgers or a loss by San Diego gives the Dodgers their 12th NL West title in 13 years. First pitch today at 12:40. The LA Sparks are making plans to build a $150 million practice facility in El Segundo. It's the first time in the 28-year history of the WNBA franchise that the Sparks will have their own practice facility and headquarters. The building, which will take up 55,000 square feet, is scheduled to open in 2027. The Lakers also have their practice headquarters in El Segundo. Speaking of the Lakers, their first day of training camp is Monday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
Welcome forward to our second hour on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, the World Health, with our very special host, Dr. Johnny J. Mack. Dr. Mack is the principal and managing partner of the Johnny Mack Group, founding director of the World House Project, Inc. He's well-traveled throughout the world. I don't know anyone who's traveled more around the world than Dr. Mack, explicating Dr. King's call to restructure the social edifice and its triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism with a revolution of values that are effected through peaceable power. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I think Johnny's mic is still muted.
Hey, Jesse. Sorry about that. Good to be here.
Hey, Johnny. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our show this week is in Washington, D.C., at the Congressional Black Caucus 2025, where the nation's leadership, both congressional, state legislative, as well as national leadership, gathers to discuss issues that affect and are pertinent to our community. And there's probably no greater threat existentially to our existence than the moment, the hour, the end time that we find ourselves in, Johnny. And I was particularly puzzled, knowing that this is our initial segment of 4 on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Johnny, I was particularly troubled by the speech I heard from the President of the United States to the United Nations, teleprompter malfunctions notwithstanding. He decided to speak from his heart. And so much of what you focus on in your work on the world heart, it really is a commandment to our hearts to look a little deeper at what Martin Luther King Jr. was explicating. And when I listened to the President of the United States just yesterday, before the United Nations, before the body and members that you have spoken to individually over many, many decades, I'm saying to myself that what I think I heard was the antithesis of what Dr. King believed and much of the antithesis of what you yourself are advancing at this hour. Johnny?
Well, I can certainly agree with you, Jesse. And I think much of the globe, not just those of us in the United States, but around the globe, would agree. There's something terribly wrong, excuse me, something terribly wrong when arguably the world's most powerful leader addresses the rest of the globe in the way that our president did. It's an unfortunate happening, of course, but it's the world we live in today, and it's the leadership that we have today. And we can cry and bemoan what we saw and heard, and that has its time and its place. But just we also must do something about it. That person, the President of the United States, is who we elected. And if that's not satisfactory, then we have to find new leadership.
Johnny, I think about our previous hour where we had Rear Admiral Norman Hayes, a man of honor, a man who has lived his life by a code of honor, from his high school graduation through his college education to being one of our nation's military leaders, a well-decorated man who's writing a new book that includes some character traits that matter to, in my opinion, to the World House. He first begins with truth. I think Dr. King explicated that. He begins with, secondly, trust. And third, obviously, there's this issue of accountability, the third T of transparency. To bring this issue all the way home to how we function in the present, in time, over time, when I talk with Johnny Mack, Dr. Johnny Mack, I have to believe that there is truth, trust, transparency, which I call accountability. So I can say, Johnny, that's not what you said last week. And this idea of melding all three of them together going forward. Johnny, when we come forward, I'm very interested in your response. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. with the World House, led by our leader, Johnny Mack, on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Dr. Johnny Mack.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandloss.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Agnes was in deep trouble with the IRS.
I owed the IRS a lot of money. I did not know what I was going to do. I was scared.
Agnes caught a break and found out about Optima Tax Relief.
But when I called Optima Tax, they guaranteed me that they were going to help me out the best that they can. And they did.
Optima stopped the IRS.
No more telephone calls, no more letters. Optima Tax took care of everything. I can finally sleep at night. I was stress-free.
Agnes was finally free from her IRS nightmare.
It was like a burden was lifted off of me, and it was a great feeling.
Are you in deep trouble with the IRS? You might want to listen to Agnes.
I would refer Optima Tax Relief to anyone because they got me debt-free from owing the IRS any more money.
Call Optima right now for your free consultation. Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the World House with Johnny Mack. We're at the Congressional Black Caucus 2025 in Washington, D.C. It has been a fairly clear day, although it was raining earlier this morning here in Washington. The convention center is packed with conventioners to hear what more than 62 African Americans in the Congress of the United States have to say, along with state legislative leaders and leaders from around the country of African American descent who descended upon Washington, D.C. to help us understand where we are, the times we are looking at, and where we are going as a people. You're listening to the World House with Johnny Mack, founding director of the World House Project, well-traveled throughout America, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, explicating Dr. King's call to restructure the social edifice. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thanks, Jesse. Great to be here.
Johnny, I want to pick up on something the Rear Admiral, Man of Honor, said in our previous hour, because I think in this hour, so much of what you have encouraged over these last several weeks as we continue to explore your thinking on these questions is an inward journey, not unlike the inward journey that Howard Thurman challenged us to be on, to really explore our faith. And the Admiral said that truth, trust, and transparency are not only community character traits, MELs, moral, ethical, and legal standards that all must come together in an individual at the same time. I want to break that down for you, for those of us who are not military personnel. When I think of truth, and I bring it all the way down to the community, I look over at this brother across from me, which is not you, but the brother there. This Negro lying. Ain't no truth in him. Then there's trust. I cut my side eye at this Negro like, what is this Negro talking about right now? What is he doing? My side eye. And then there's transparency. When I hold this Negro to account saying, brother, listen, what you're saying or doing doesn't jive across the standards that the entire community accepts as what is reasonable behavior for such a time as this, or even in your own individual life. And that leads to moral, ethical, and legal standards. And Johnny, to use your terminology, if I open the door, which you have, to the World House, and I let this Negro in, and before I let him take off his shoes walking into the World House, we are in a struggle with truth, trust, and transparency, why should I let this Negro in my house in the first place?
Well, I think for one thing, Jesse, if you open the door and it's your house, then you set the rules. And truth, trust, and transparency are fundamental principles or rules that you adopt in your house. The question is that what we do collectively as the world house? Do we hold ourselves and all others to this fundamental set of principles of truth, of trust, and of transparency? You know, Jesse, the difference between truth and values is that the difference between principles and values is that principles are objective and universal. They're external to us, while values are very subjective and personal. They're internal to us. And so fundamentally, this idea of moral and ethical and legal, these are all external elements as well in the human experience that we adopt in order to shape and frame how we live together. Again, I tend to take an academic approach to these questions because you put me in that corner, Jesse, but that's how I think I think that's how we have to think about these. And they frame the kind of world house we want to live in.
That's right.
So they go right along with the three fundamental values that Martin Luther King espoused, I argue, for the world house. And they, you may recall, are dignity, liberty, and community. We take this triangle, this trinity of sets of values or principles: truth, trust, and transparency, moral, ethical, and legal, and then dignity, liberty, and community. Just imagine, Jesse Jackson Jr., if the world truly adopted this trinity set of values, what kind of world we would have. And it seems that's what's missing, this fundamental framework of rules and standards that we must set for ourselves to live peacefully and justly in the world house. They are missing. I think I heard in so many words Admiral Hayes say, when it comes to faulty leadership. He didn't use those exact words, but indeed, I believe that is what he was saying. Wars, we experience wars because that framework of values, Jesse, of truth and trust and transparency are missing.
Let me share with you that that I didn't press the Admiral on that because one day the Admiral could be Secretary of Defense. I know that he's retired. One day he may be the head of national intelligence for the United States of America, or someone that someone will call back into service for the purposes of serving their country. And I'm not going to turn what he did into a political moment on this radio show or any other show that creates a liability for him when he is sitting before the Senate committee or the House of Representatives and the Confirmation Committee. But what I can say is that it is evident to me that a man of honor lives a certain life in a certain way that can withstand public scrutiny, that reflects a sacrifice to all of the people that mattered. And in this moment, Johnny, I have to say to myself that in a real sense, Martin Luther King Jr. was a general in an army that we may not have understood that we were soldiers in for truth, trust, transparency, moral, ethical, and legal standards for just laws that matter to all of us. Because if we did not take these values into consideration, the very foundation of the world house that we live in was burning and on a shaky foundation.
You know, Jesse, just thinking about that, you know, that first set, that first trinity of principles, truth, trust, and transparency. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, we have to understand that there's a certain relativity to truth. Now, your listeners will have to listen carefully as we parse this just a bit. Truth is relative to the one who holds that truth. In other words, there is an absolute truth, but which one of us knows truth absolutely? And so we act in accordance with the truth, Jesse, as we perceive it or believe it to be. And so your perception of truth may be one thing and mine another's. And so under a previous administration, it became this notion of alternative truths or alternative facts, I think was really the term, the metaphor for truth. But that's where trust comes in. If you have your perception of truth and I have mine, and we act accordance with that truth as we perceive it, then don't we have to have trust in each other, that we will do the right thing, that we will respect each other's dignity and worth, even as we might perceive truth differently? And then that brings me to transparency. If we're going to hold our truths as we understand them respectively, but have enough trust in each other to respect our dignity as humanity, being equally of dignity and worth, then don't we also have to be transparent with each other so that we fully understand how each other perceives the world or our points of view? Well, those are very profound and fundamental principles of life that we would all do well to recognize and fully understand.
Johnny, in this moment, I'm thinking about something that Thomas Jefferson said that Martin Luther King Jr. held near and dear to his heart. And I hope that our listening audience can appreciate this moment. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, and yes, women, are created equal, and that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, happiness, and the pursuit of happiness. The high ideal of a system. Martin Luther King Jr. begins the I Have a Dream speech in 1963, August 28th, on a sweltering day here in Washington, D.C., on the Nation's Mall, with this concept of what? Truth, trust, we all hold, trust, we all believe, trust, truth. We hold these truths, we, trust and truth, and we're transparent in that we're holding each other accountable to the idea of equality, because these rights come from God, from our one creator, the governor of the universe. He who has brought us thus far along this way. New insights from the admirable, Johnny, on the Declaration of Independence and Thomas Jefferson?
Well, you know, as I listen to you, explain Thomas Jefferson's offer to King at the Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson, Lincoln, and King. We're speaking of these somewhat in the abstract. How do we make them very practical to ourselves and to our listeners? That comes to mind. And I think that goes back, Jesse, to the point that you made, that particularly the transparency piece is about accountability. And it's our responsibility, each and every one of us, individually and collectively, to hold ourselves accountable to hold each other accountable and to hold our leadership accountable. We've too often abdicated that responsibility, that accountability to and for ourselves, for others. And it's one of the reasons why we find ourselves in the dilemmas that we experience today.
The dilemmas that we experience today, too numerous to name. And our challenge, at least for me, and whatever role I may play in changing the arc of the moral universe or doing my best at 175 pounds, as Johnny Mack has said, to bend the arc of the universe. The universe is a heavy arc for a 175 pounder, but collectively, Johnny Mack has suggested that together we have the weight to actually change and bend the trajectory and the arc of human history. And that I have so much profound respect for, because it's not, as Muhammad Ali said, it's not me, it's we. It's not I, it's all of us being on the same page, being patient enough with us in our what? Our truth, my understanding, the portion of the truth that you understand, your understanding, the small, minuscule portion of the truth that I understand. And then we trusting each other that you're not completely wrong and I'm not completely right. And we're transparent about that. And from this concept, because no one is right in this equation and both sides may be wrong, moral, ethical leadership and standards emerge from that. But not just leadership, an individual commitment. For those who may not even consider themselves to be leaders, they're leaders within their own space. To come together as we enter this door of a new existence together. And in real sense, Johnny, this door is being slammed in the face of many of us, but it is also through this hour being opened up by your thinking. Johnny, we have about 1 minute and 30 seconds before we come forward.
Well, Jesse, I very much appreciate all that you've said, and particularly your reference to the moral arc of the universe, or the arc of the universe. Because I think, as you know, strongly believe that in uttering that metaphor for how we change our current circumstances to what we want this world house to be, as King articulated, I firmly believe that the moral arc, yes, can be an arc of faith that we expect God Almighty, wherever she may be, to bend for us. I firmly believe that arc is our responsibility to bend. That each and every one of us, as you suggested, has a responsibility to grab hold of that arc and to pull it down and to shorten its apogee as much as we can by the strength of our collective pull.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest and our regular contributor on the World House is Dr. Johnny Mack. More when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is denying claims he was bribed to quit the mayoral race after Curtis Sliwa alleged Andrew Cuomo offered him money to drop out.
No one has not offered me money to leave the race, and we would not accept it if it was offered.
Polls show Adams trailing badly, with Democrats Rand Mamdani leading, Cuomo second, and Sliwa third. The Trump administration is pulling $65 million in grants from magnet schools in New York City, Chicago, and Fairfax, Virginia, saying they violated civil rights laws. Officials ordered changes to transgender, DEI, and Black student success programs, but when districts refused, the funding was cut. And the 65th annual Skyview Open wrapped up this week in Asheville, North Carolina. The tournament, known as the longest-running Black-owned golf event, highlights Black golfers. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Take a break from the mundane and escape to something a little more fabulous with the first ever fabulous 5-day sale. From today through this Friday, September 26th, find deals at all your favorite Vegas hotels. Plan your fabulous escape and learn more at visitlasvegas.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., inviting you to join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, here on KBLA Talk 1580. As a law school graduate and a theologian with a firm grasp of our body politic given almost 2 decades in Congress, my show is the fresh new home of an authentic, uncompromised quest for transformation and salvation, both personal and collectively, as I vigorously interrogate the theological and symbolic meanings embedded in our society. I promise to leverage my knowledge of history, theology, and both international and domestic issues to imagine an inclusive vision for the future, which I hope will inspire all of us to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a given, not just an aspiration. So join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, for 2 hours of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at KBLA1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community-focused. So just go to KBLA1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. 800. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And we are at the Congressional Black Caucus 2025 in Washington, D.C., where 62 of the nation's most honorable representatives of the people are gathering, along with thousands of leaders at the state legislative level, community level, the Congressional Black Caucus weekend, to discuss so many of the issues that we are confronting as a people before the nation. And even as we reflect upon the work that remains in front of us and the existential challenges that we confront as a people and as a nation, we still have a dream of a world house, this idea that we can live together as God's children on a planet that is safe and sustainable, with education of equal high quality, healthcare of equal high quality, and that there is a minimum floor in our nation beneath which no American can fall. In fact, no world citizen can fall. Our very special guest in this hour is our regular contributor on Thought Provoking Thursdays, Dr. Johnny Mack, who has traveled all over the world explicating the philosophy and the ideas of Martin Luther King Jr. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse.
And I do want to say that on Friday, Fat Meat Fridays, Gina Towns, our creator of the show, will have as our special guest Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, who is sounding the alarm bells, along with Dr. Wilmer Leon, of the challenges that we have been confronting. A very, very special show on Fat Meat Fridays, Reflectivity with Gina Towns on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And that will be tomorrow. Very much looking forward to that. Johnny, let me ask you a question about where we find ourselves at this moment. I'm thinking that even though we objectively believe in our equality under a supreme being, we fight and find ourselves in these moments struggling with something as basic as having neighbors, loving our neighbors, and respecting people who have fundamental disagreements with us. I thought the Admiral today went to the heart of the idea that every single relationship in this country first begins with a conversation, some dialogue, some agreement on truth. And then there is, I'm looking out for you. And that means trust. And then this question of transparency that leads to moral and ethical leadership in any given circumstance. Johnny, take your time.
Yeah. So morality certainly includes an obligation of trust. And if one's going to be a leader, one's going to hold him or herself out, particularly in elected leadership, where particularly in representative government, in a democracy, being able to trust that individual, that person, is obviously fundamental to the moral framework of such a society. And unfortunately, we're finding it very difficult not only to trust in the highest seat of governments around the globe, but throughout our elected positions, particularly in the United States, from local to state, regional, national government. So what has happened to our sense of trust? Well, what has happened to it is a betrayal of that trust, Jesse. There was a certain promise that King talked about in the speech that you referred to in March on Washington in 1963. That we should trust in our social contract that we call our Constitution. We should trust that our leaders will hold to that social contract that we call our Constitution. They will govern and respect that social contract. And it's funny, isn't it, Jesse, that people who subscribe to the whole idea of contracts, we must keep those contracts. We have a binding agreement. Contracts are sacred. But what contract is more sacred to a nation state than its very constitution? And we have lost faith in that trust because of the betrayal.
Johnny, I wake up some mornings saying to myself that my ideal leader is someone to whom I can plead my case and seek mercy. That's part of my life experience. My ideal leader is when I'm sick, there's going to be someone there to say, I'm going to, like the Samaritan, take care of your health care needs. Someone that I may or may not know, a stranger on life's Jericho road. When there's a health care bill that's coming to me that is imminent as a human being, that someone, some force, some prayer is going to be answered that intervenes in my existence. I wake up not even knowing, as a freshly born child out of my mother's womb, that the education that I receive isn't going to be an education that lands me in a coal mine for multiple generations, but that I might graduate from college or become a medical doctor or become a healthcare professional or become a lawyer or become a public servant or even become a businessman in a system where someone is a steward, if you will, a shepherd of the system itself. We've transitioned from the kind of leadership on earth as it is in heaven, where the character trait of the leader actually meets my prayers and the collective prayers of millions of people to meet the expectations of our lives. I wake up in the morning, read the newspaper, read the stocks, read the bonds, and I ask myself the question, because of the leader that I have in place, is my life better off now than it was 4 years ago? What can you do for me? What is the woofum? What's in it for me? It just doesn't seem like I have the expectations of the character of some kind of savior in real time for my space, for my less than middle class reality. I'm looking for that kind of leader in the World House. I'm looking for the great empath. I'm looking for the avatar that Dr. King was prepared to be, according to James Baldwin, when he was gunned down. An avatar for our faith, an answer to our prayers. Does that factor in, Johnny?
I think it does, Jesse. I think also that in some large measure, we all have to be that kind of leader in our own spheres of life. As we've recognized in this conversation before, what Mohandas K. Gandhi admonished, that we, Jesse, have to be the change we seek. Others might let us down, but if we let ourselves down, then what? There's a phrase I often use that's one of the Johnny Macisms, and that is, after your word, there's nothing left.
Johnny, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Dr. Johnny Mack.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people. We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Coverage varies by plan. View contracts and exclusions at endurancewarranty.com. If you have a 2004 or newer vehicle that's out of warranty or about to be, Endurance is urgently notifying U.S. drivers about their low-cost vehicle coverage plan designed to save drivers thousands on rising vehicle repair costs. Those who qualify can pick their plan, coverage, and repair shop. Roadside service, towing, and rental cars included. All covered repairs get paid directly to the repair shop for you. Call now for your free quote. Call 800-373-7519. That's 800-373-7519.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. I want to be with you. Yeah. I want to be with you. Woo-hoo. In the World House. Anyway, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest in the previous hour has been the principal and managing partner of the Johnny Mac Group, founding director of the World House Project, well-traveled throughout the entire world, and he brings a perspective to our program that keeps us from being too provincial, too narrow, too local, and reminds us that we are citizens of the world and that we are struggling and fighting to be part of something. Johnny, welcome forward to our show, The World House with Johnny Mac.
Thank you, Jesse.
Johnny, this is our final segment. First, I want to begin by saying thank you for the leadership that you continue to exhibit, not only on this program, but around our country and around our world. Let me start with the obvious. How can we support your work?
Oh, my. Well, you can go to the worldhouseproject.org. That's our website. Again, the worldhouseproject.org. You can learn much more about our work toward realizing Dr. King's vision of the World House. And you can support it by joining our global network. You can support it by your donations, gifts to our work. But principally, really joining hands, understanding what our responsibilities are to ourselves and to each other is really what the World House Project is about. And to the extent that we can build this global network in solidarity, people who believe in peace and justice, that in itself is the kind of support that ultimately helps to realize Dr. King's vision of a world house.
Johnny, on that website, obviously there's a donate button where we can contribute.
There is indeed.
Okay.
Right, and we're a tax-exempt organization. Your contribution is tax deductible.
Thank you, Johnny. Johnny, let me ask you a question. I know this is a difficult question, and I also know this is our final segment on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We talk about bending the arc of the moral universe to reflect our sense of morality. Our producer asked me the question, what is morality? How relative is it? Because certainly the events of the last 2 weeks, including the tragic events of Utah, have bent the moral arc of the universe in a direction that now raises the question over what constitutes a moral standard. There is the moral standard, Johnny, that I believe you and I ascribe to. And there is the moral standard of the words, the deeds, and the philosophy of others. That does not necessarily reflect the vision of Dr. King, that doesn't reflect the vision of Johnny Mac or Jesse Jackson Jr., Al Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr., Ralph Abernathy, William Barber, Barbara Arnwine, Teresa Hord Owens, you name it. We represent an arc and a direction of the arc that might be fundamentally different than others. Johnny, we are in a tug of war over bending the arc of the moral universe.
Yes, we are. And, Jesse, hasn't that been the particular circumstance of humanity from the very beginning, whether you come from or subscribe to a Judeo-Christian ethic or otherwise? We think about the conflict between Cain and Abel. There's always been that struggle of how we perceive the world, how we perceive each other. And isn't that what Dr. King's point is? That we have to find the space, we have to create the opportunities to live together, or we would perish as fools. And so, as we said earlier in this conversation, Jesse, we may have different perspectives on how we understand truth, but we have to defend with our lives the right for each of us to hold those truths and to express those truths, to respect each other in our truths without destroying each other. That is the ultimate dilemma, the ultimate responsibility. And that is the meaning of bending the arc toward justice.
Part of my ability to convince the other side that my truth is the truth is my willingness to accept and to defend what Mr. Kirk believed were his truths, even though I don't believe they are my truths. But it does not result in his destruction.
That's right.
Or anything that brings harm to him, his family, or even his supporters. Part of my truth is that I'm resilient enough and persistent enough to listen, understand, to stand by my truth and know that the God that we serve is just and that he will be the ultimate, she will be the ultimate, if you will, decider, governor of the universe on what constitutes justice in that context. But it does not come at the expense of anyone's life. Johnny, that's hard.
It's hard, Jesse. And you know, it may well be that I have my truth and you have yours. But as King and so many others cut from that cloth that he was, understood that there's a certain dialectic, there's a coming together where your truth and my truth, as we commune together, as we communicate with each other, we strike a new understanding of truth, a collective truth. Isn't that really what living together in the World House is all about? It's not so much that we are fastly holding on to our truths, no matter what, but that we are open to the possibility that we may not fully understand the truth, and that there is room for us to be wrong about our truths, and being willing to admit that.
Let me just comment on this with the final 2 minutes of our show. I just love the way Johnny stops in mid-thought and leaves me with my mouth wide open. And then I have to come up with something to say because I'm sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for you to say more. And then you just stop cold. Johnny, as a result of that, you have now 45 seconds to end on a word of hope.
I love it, Jesse. So I love the dialogue, Jesse. In fact, my word of hope, given what you've just said, is that we'll continue to do this. We'll continue to dialogue from week to week and engage each other and with our listeners, that we'll have something to say that is relevant and responsive to their lives, the lives of their families and their communities. And I think that if we're committed to that, if we hold fast to our truths as we share it with your community, our listening community, we trust in them and they trust in us.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. KBLA Talk 1580 is in Washington, D.C. at the Congressional Black Caucus, covering the future of our people. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Until tomorrow, more on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is denying claims he was bribed to quit the mayoral race after Curtis Sliwa alleged Andrew Cuomo offered him money to drop out.
No one has not offered me money to leave the